Hi, and welcome everyone to our pre-conference exclusive session. Today, we're basically going to be doing an interview, a Q&A session, then obviously it's going to be doing an interview from me, and then doing an interview with Henrik, who's the CIO of Apollo Capital. And if you haven't sort of been across this, if you haven't been across this area for some time, you may not know that. So for me, Apollo Capital, I've been fortunate enough to watch their journey pretty much from inception to now. They crossed an important milestone. I think it was last week, where they crossed 100 million in sort of assets under management. And given that we're absolutely currently in a crypto bull run, I just thought it was a really good time to bring in Henrik, because literally he's one of those phenomenal people that is spending 24/7 sort of watching the market, looking at opportunities, and also obviously trading in it actively as a crypto sort of fund manager. So without further ado, let me introduce Henrik. I'll bring him into the scene. Welcome, Henrik.
Hi, Steve. How are you?
Very well, thank you. Now, mate, let's just give a quick introduction to yourself, just a bit of your background before sort of Apollo, and then we'll sort of give a bit of an introduction to Apollo, and then we can get into the fun stuff.
Sure. So, my background is in traditional finance. I spent most of my career in quant equities. So financial mathematics. I'm originally from Scandinavia. Worked on the buy side and the sell side in Scandinavia and Singapore. Spent 10 years in New York. Been investing in the crypto markets for the past 8 years, and moved to Australia 5 years ago or so, and obviously co-founded Apollo Capital, where I'm the CIO. So Apollo Capital, just to give you a little bit of background there, is a crypto asset manager, solely focused on the crypto asset space. We have close to a 4-year track record now, and kind of our overall thesis is that this is a new asset class, and that's what we are investing in. And obviously, I feel super fortunate to be spending all my time in crypto, because there is always so much happening in crypto, and there's so much innovation happening. So happy to talk about that and what we see in the market.
And I like we say that. Like, I think innovation is moving at a rapid pace, but I just feel like crypto is a whole other level. Like, I even find it, for me personally, it's incredibly hard to keep up at the pace it moves. And I think when I look at Apollo as a fund, your actual journey is actually, I think the journey for Apollo Capital, that is, I think is a really good reflection of the journey of the crypto markets. Because if you think about it, like, I remember when you first started at Apollo, and you think about how long it took you to get to 5 million of assets under management. And if you want to go, it would be great for you to go through that journey, because crossing that milestone of 100 million of assets, that's been almost parabolic for you over the last couple of years. So I think it's worthwhile to tell that sort of journey.
Yes, sure. So we launched, the doors kind of opened in the beginning of 2018 for us. We're not taking external capital. And that was actually in the beginning of one of the longest bear markets in crypto. That was obviously a really tough time. It's really hard to raise money, investing into a bear market where prices keep declining. Obviously, the people invested at that time, they've been doing great, but it was really, really tough time. We started with, I think close to maybe $1 million, something like that. Slowly building our network, slowly kind of getting more and more investors. I think in the beginning we had, a lot of obviously wholesale investors, people that shared a view that this is potentially a new asset class. But I think, since then, some of those, I guess the thesis we had have been sort of verified, and, we have seen much bigger players coming into the crypto ecosystem. And I think, the evolvement we have seen in the crypto asset space since then has been amazing. But obviously it was a really tough kind of 12 months starting out, trying to build something in the middle of a bear market. And obviously returns were kind of quite negative at that time, to say the least, right? Because in a crypto bear market, crypto prices tend to decline by 60, 70, 80 in some cases. For the smaller coins, right, they're down 95% by the end of the bear market. So, we were quite conservative at that time, had a kind of a high allocation to the blue chips in the space, which is Bitcoin, right? It's sort of the safest asset out there in the crypto space. And that might sound strange to some people because Bitcoin itself is viewed as very volatile. But sort of we started off with a quite high allocation to Bitcoin, kind of having a cash reserve and kind of slowly buying into that bear market at good prices, investing in some early stage deals as well. And that is paying off now. Like those investors that were with us that, early in 2018, that have been doing really well. And obviously the market is, evolving very, very fast. And today, I think you mentioned, we're over 100 million. So obviously today we're speaking to bigger investors as well, family offices, some boutique institutional investors as well. And the whole crypto space have evolved, right? We have seen new all-time highs in Bitcoin and Ethereum. And I think the whole thesis around DeFi or decentralized finance have been played out the last 24 months. So we've seen enormous growth kind of in an area where we have been focused. And, we started out with myself and Tim as co-founders. And today we are 6-7 people full-time at Apollo. So we have grown the firm as well. And I'm very happy with the team we have in place today.
And you put out fantastic information as well, whether it be on your social media or on LinkedIn. I haven't sort of quite followed you on Telegram yet. I don't know if you've got a channel on Telegram, but if you did, I'd follow it. But I obviously get your emails, I get your updates, and I find it interesting when you put out your updates where you sort of talk about sort of what's happening in the markets. A couple questions I want to kick off with you to start with. You've been investing in this space for 8 years. This is effectively your third bull run. Would that be correct?
Yeah, it's something like that, right? The crypto markets tend to go through these cycles, and
it obviously correlates typically with the halving.
That's right. So last year we had a halving in Bitcoin, so that occurs every 4 years. So that's something kind of, that I think has been definitely positive for Bitcoin, for the last year or so. But today, if I look at the portfolio, Bitcoin is not our biggest asset in the portfolio, and we are seeing much higher growth in some of the other assets out there. If it's Ethereum, all the things happening in DeFi and NFTs. So I think people are starting to realize that the space is much bigger than Bitcoin. But obviously Bitcoin is still the largest asset in the space.
It's a really funny thing. The more you sort of delve into this area and the more you sort of watch more videos on YouTube, watch more panel sessions with the likes of yourself and other crypto fund managers, you feel almost boring for just in holding Bitcoin, as it is almost considered, as you said, the sort of safe one amongst them. But what for you, when you're looking at different, whether it be different coins or whether you're looking at different projects that people, what are you actually looking for? What are you analyzing? If something comes across your desk today that is new, what are you looking at?
Well, we're really investing in the infrastructure of what we believe in kind of a new type of finance we call decentralized finance, which is potentially a new infrastructure for finance. So that's where we have been focusing a lot of our investment activities, since we started Apollo. And so we have seen product market fit within a few sectors within DeFi. So when talking about lending markets, for example, so very early on, we were a launch partner with Compound Finance. That's one of the biggest decentralized lenders in crypto. We have been holding a coin that is now called Aave. We held it when it was called Lend. Those are, the biggest players in that space. We have seen the product market fit in that space. The other kind of sector within DeFi we have seen a product market fit is in something called Decentralized Exchanges. So some of your viewers will have heard about Uniswap, for example. So Uniswap is one of the oldest, one of the biggest players in that space. So instead of trading on Binance or Coinbase, you can actually use blockchain technology itself to trade. And that's decentralized exchanges that is evolving very quickly. They've seen enormous product market fit in that space. On DEXs today, there are between $60 and $100 billion worth of trading done every month. So that has grown enormously in the last 12, 18 months. We believe that the next big wave in DeFi will be in something called on-chain derivatives. So in traditional markets, going back to kind of traditional markets, derivatives tend to be multiple bigger than the spot market. Things like futures, options, those kind of things. And the next wave of protocols in DeFi, we believe, will do derivatives on the blockchain. That hasn't really been possible before because Ethereum is quite slow and expensive. But now we are seeing the launch of much faster blockchains, layer 2s on top of Ethereum. And these futures protocol, derivatives protocol, options protocols that we have been investing in, they're going directly to the layer 2s and other blockchains. So that would be super exciting within the next 6-12 months to see that market evolve.
So are you going to give any clues on those layer 2 protocols that you've been investing in?
Yeah, so like we invest in the protocols itself, right? The teams that are building the options protocols or the futures protocols, but we're also investing in the alternatives to Ethereum, right? So currently, most of the smart contracts, most of the activity in DeFi is being is still on Ethereum, right? But Ethereum is really expensive to use, and it will take time for Ethereum itself to scale. Kind of in the meantime, we've seen a lot of activity on other chains that we have exposure to. So if it's Binance Smart Chain, Polygon, Solana, Terra, Avalanche, these are some of the names that we hold in our portfolio. So that's just been really exciting. Look at the coin like Solana, for example. That's going exponential right now. It's a very large, allocation right now.
I think it's up 30% today.
Yeah, yes, 30% just today, right? Which is sort of crazy for any other market. Things like Polkadot. Polkadot is another blockchain that is really will go live before the end of the year. We were an early kind of investor in the DOT token. So we're really looking forward to that. And then we are seeing kind of more native layer 2 solutions on top of Ethereum. They might not have a coin that you can invest in right now, but we are seeing a lot of the projects we are investing in that are launching straight onto those layer 2s. They are called Arbitrum and they're called Optimism. And that is launching right now as well. So that's super exciting.
And how are you, when you're looking at sort of adoption of different tokens, how are you typically assessing that? Like obviously with DeFi, it's quite easy because you're looking at how much money sort of being sort of invested into the DeFi platforms. But if you're looking outside of DeFi, what are you looking at? How many projects are being built on it? Are you looking at how many wallet addresses? What sort of things are you assessing? And how are you assessing growth rates, etc.?
There's a lot of data out there. That's sort of the case with blockchain is all transparent, and you can kind of follow how many transactions is being made, how many wallets are created, and all that, right? So the data is out there. It's just about filtering that data. When it comes to layer 1 blockchains, full of TVL is sort of fairly easy. If the data is out there, you can go on sites that shows you TVL. So TVL, going back to that, is total value locked. That's sort of a high-level metric for a lot of DeFi things. So if you look at the total TVL for DeFi is around $200 billion today. 90% of that, or probably 80% of that, is on Ethereum. And the other big protocols capturing TVL is Solana, Terra, some of those protocols I mentioned. So that's one way to do it. Obviously, you want to be ahead of time and kind of, we invested in DOT a year ago, and I think that TVL on Polkadot will start kind of to build towards the end of this year. But that's one way to look at it. TVL doesn't say everything. So, for example, if you're looking at the DEX, the Decentralized Exchange, TVL metric might be less relevant than looking at transactions on that network. But there are a lot of websites you can kind of go to. There are research websites like Messari, for example. There is one for DeFi called DeFi Llama. There is a whole host of websites you can go research, find out the activity on different networks and so on.
And looking, obviously, we talked about the halving sort of straight off the bat, and we mentioned the sort of 2012, 2016, and then 2020. And typically, if you look at the chart sort of at that time, sort of end of 2013, end of 2017 was where the sort of most significant sort of bull run was. What's your sort of, from what you're seeing as far as adoption, charts, whatever it is for through the lens that you get to view this market, what's your expectation over these next sort of few months, and I suppose next sort of 6 to 12 months?
Yeah. So we mentioned it, a Bitcoin with a halving. I think we should maybe talk about Ethereum as well. Something similar is happening on Ethereum as well. And I think that's an asset that is being discovered currently by more sophisticated investors, seen as something very different from Bitcoin. So Ethereum, had an upgrade to a protocol just over a month ago called EIP 1559, where they are starting to kind of lower the issuance of Ethereum. Each transaction have a component that is burnt, meaning that the issuance of Ethereum is actually going down. Yesterday was the kind of the first time in Ethereum's history where you had more ETH burnt than being issued.
I saw that.
So that's pretty exciting as well, what's happening on Ethereum in that regard. And Ethereum is going to move to proof of stake, which will lower the issuance even more. And that will probably happen.
Oh, sorry.
No, that will happen. I think that move to proof of stake will happen sometime first, probably in the first half of the year next year.
And obviously, as part of that sort of move to proof of stake, there's obviously been a lot of ETH locked up in that process as well. So I think I can't remember exactly what the stat was, but there's only something like 9 or 10% available of actual supply available for sort of trading at the moment. Otherwise, it's in cold wallets, locked up, or
staked. That's right. So they actually launched what they call the Beacon chain at the beginning of this year, which is kind of the first proof of stake chain that all the activity will move to during the first half of next year. But you can already stake your ETH on that chain and kind of earn a return for doing that. So a lot of people are staking their ETH. So you're completely right about that.
What I love when you talked about it, it's a new, I suppose it's a new platform of finance, whether it be decentralized finance, whether it be the decentralized exchanges. There's obviously been an incredible amount of infrastructure built up over the last sort of 3 to 4 years that I've been watching it. And also, you've got some of the smartest people, smartest minds on the planet working on different problems, working on different projects, etc. How do you, I find it interesting if you're thinking about sort of traditional finance versus, sort of decentralized finance. How do you see it playing out over the next 5 years? Like, for example, does it get to, at the moment, there's an ability where you can take your ETH and you can actually generate yield from it, along with a whole bunch of other tokens as well. That's super exciting, right? Because no one's really putting their money in a bank to get returns at the moment. But you can obviously do that in crypto. It's obviously just wild at the same time. But then where does that actually end up? You mentioned about options, right? The ability to write calls on your holding then becomes another potential revenue stream, income stream. There's obviously now different cards and different platforms where you can actually and links to Visa and MasterCard where you can actually use your crypto to actually pay for stuff. That's all happened in the last 2 to 3 years. And it's where does this look like 2 to 5 years from now?
Yeah, what I'm excited about is the DeFi market today, or the crypto market in general, I guess, is much it's very much crypto native, right? You have to kind of be quite involved in crypto, know how to use MetaMask, hardware wallets, private keys, and all these things, right, to be able to participate, right? So it's sort of a growing ecosystem, but it's very sort of crypto native, if you like. What I'm really looking forward to in the next 2, 3, 4, 5 years is kind of bridging this gap between DeFi and crypto and everything that is going on in the rest of the world. So I think you will start seeing those bridges very, very soon. So for example, in DeFi, you can get, maybe if it's a 5 or 10% yield, just holding a US dollar stablecoin, right? So currently there are no interest rates for bank accounts. So I think you will see some fintechs offering that kind of yield by plugging into DeFi in the back end, so to speak. So you might see a fintech app where the user just see a US dollar account or an Australian dollar account, but they're offering that kind of yield by plugging into Aave or Compound and all these protocols that are being built. And they will offer the customers 5% interest rate on their savings. And I think when you start seeing those kind of things, then you might see a lot of money flowing into the crypto ecosystem.
Interesting. And you mentioned about how, you know, that sort of mix between traditional and also crypto. Is it in the US? I can't remember what the name of the group was, but there was some group that started offering sort of digital asset custody solutions to banks. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's probably right. There's a lot of custody providers now around the world. In the US, we have companies like Fidelity Digital Assets, like ICE, which is the owner of New York Stock Exchange.
Yes.
Those are kind of traditional organizations, and they're offering custody for Bitcoin and other crypto assets these days. You know, and they will be serving banks and other big players that have confidence in players like that. So, you know, that market has really evolved as well in the last few years.
And obviously NFTs have gone through I think when we last chatted in sort of July last year, NFTs were just sort of starting to be talked about at that time, but it really sort of took off towards the end of last year and is now sort of in that sort of red hot sort of. How are you know, does Apollo deal with NFTs at all, or is it strictly sort of in sort of different tokens and protocols, or what's your sort of observations of what's happening in the NFT market?
Yeah, you're right. So NFT market has really taken off kind of this year, right? So I think that's another market kind of that has the real potential to bring in a lot of people into crypto without necessarily knowing it's based on blockchain and Ethereum and all these networks, right? So that's super exciting. I think we've seen a few verticals within NFTs really take off. One is digital art. So you can do digital art with art pieces you actually can take ownership of, but they are digital. You can do collectibles. That has really taken off. That market is pretty crazy right now.
I wouldn't even know where to start. Like I've got friends that are obviously trading NFTs. I'm like, I don't even know where to start with that.
Yeah, that's moving so quick, this market. And the other one is gaming. So like in-game items. There's one game called Axie Infinity, for example, which is the biggest NFT-based game right now. And they're, you know, they have so many players just playing that game, breeding these axes, making money. So play to earn is kind of a whole new thing that, you know, no one really talked about 3 months ago. So that's kind of how fast this market is evolving.
I was reading the report that Visa put out about NFTs and the potential for them. And you think about it, it really is right in the sense that anyone that does have their own sort of community or their own platform in some way has that ability to some way use NFTs, whether it be for gamification, whether it be for monetization, whether it be for, you know, whatever, you know, so whether it be gaming, etc. There's what I love about crypto is just creating new ways to monetize things in ways at super fast rates. And also it's very much generational driven at the starting point, where it's sort of, you know, there's very much Gen Z, obviously millennials into it, but then also, as you mentioned, more sophisticated investors, they are coming in and also investing significant amounts into the space as well. Yeah,
and Visa actually bought a CryptoPunk on their balance sheet. It's pretty cool to see. So we have seen.
Go for it.
No, I was going to mention another NFT play called NBA Top Shots, which I think really took off in the beginning of the year, and that just shows kind of a glimpse of how mainstream this can go. Because I think some of the people interacting with the NBA Top Shots, they might not realize it's, you know, based on crypto.
The other part that I really love about crypto and why I feel like, even though how much Bitcoin's gone up, how much Ethereum's gone up, like you're thinking back in early 2020, Ethereum was hitting, just under $200 at that point. So to see it, where it's at now, where it's right on that sort of, 4,000 US mark is astonishing. But it's still, like, think about the early, and I've seen it online where they're talking about comparison to the early days of the internet and the rate of adoption of crypto in general. The position that you are in is absolutely incredible, because if you think about it, obviously, it got described really well, and the internet provided us access to information. Then obviously social media and different sort of messaging applications provide us with access to networks, right? And then you have this layer of protocol that also monetizes the internet in a very unique way and creates a whole new layer of opportunities. And in being in innovation for the last sort of 10 to 12 years, the first step of innovation is replacement, right? So typically there's this replacement of what traditional was. So whether it be the starting point was classifieds, right? Think about classifieds in the newspaper. The first thing the internet did was help replace classifieds. And typically there comes this point where that crossover, where there's an equal amount of value, whether it be what the value of what it was with traditional media, and then it became the sort of internet providers in that era. And then it just goes well above that, and 10x is well above it. And you realize that basically this opportunity is just starting. There's how many wallet addresses are there? Like, if you're thinking about Bitcoin and Ethereum, how many wallet addresses would there be?
Maybe 100 million, something in that order. All right. So,
and you're thinking about, and there's predictions that there'll be over 1 billion users in the next sort of 5 years, which is astonishing.
Yeah, so that's another 10x, right? Just in users, right? So
yes,
and kind of now the infrastructure is starting to be able to support that, right? Because we were not there, to be honest, like a year ago or 2 years ago. But with all these scaling solutions coming to the market, the kind of the crypto ecosystem is starting to be able to support that with the custody providers we talked about earlier as well, with all that infrastructure being built up around crypto.
And if there's any, like, just as we sort of come to the end of this sort of discussion, if you're an investor that's in this space at the moment, maybe you've already invested, you've done really well over the last sort of year and a half, how should you be playing? How should you be looking to play this next sort of 6 to 12 months, as you've got some big key things like, obviously, this end of September to December, which has traditionally been a big period in the sort of post in that 18 months sort of post halving. Plus, you mentioned about Ethereum. There's that potential when that ETH gets unlocked as it sort of crosses over, that could have an impact. How are you playing? What are your obviously you've got to be invested because you're a fund. How should an investor be looking to play this period?
I think there are some key events ahead of us, right? So one of those is one we mentioned, right? Ethereum moving to proof of stake, lowering issuance even more. That's one of them, right? Another one is ETF. So we haven't gotten an ETF on Bitcoin or ETH in the States, right? So in the US, right? That's really the market that maybe matters the most for an ETF. And that's an event that could happen in the next 12, in the next 24 months. That would be another key event. But there are, also probably a lot of unexpected events. So for example, just this week, El Salvador is buying Bitcoin as a country. Like, we wouldn't have predicted that 6 months ago, right? So that's the kind of adoption that is happening in crypto.
I love it. I couldn't think of a more. I said, what I love about the space that we're in, you get to watch these networks affect at play. You get to watch adoption at play. The adoption curve of different technologies, and to see crypto at this point, and to be basically watching it and being a part of it for the last sort of 4 years has been exciting for me. I wish I'd been playing for, being a part of it for the last 8 years, because that's obviously, that's a true believer sort of right from the start. So Henrik, just want to say thank you so much. If people want to find more information about Apollo, literally just type in Apollo Capital. I know you've got a newsletter. Subscribe to their newsletter. It's very short, it's succinct, and it gives us some great insights into what the Apollo team is looking at. I highly recommend following both Tim Johnston and also Henrik on LinkedIn. I love their posts that they put out. And is there anything else you recommend that people should follow for updates and for information?
Yeah, I think ApolloCap.io is a website, so go there. We have some resources as well on that site, so we link to a lot of resources in crypto.
Perfect. Well, Henrik, thanks so much for your time this afternoon, mate. Really appreciate it. Always love these chats, and look forward to future discussions.
Great. Thank you, Stephen. Talk soon.
All right. Now that will conclude the live stream, and I'll see you all at Venturing Capital.